Good morning, good evening, everyone. So, have you ever thought about growing plants, but you have instead of a green thumb, a black thumb? Because that's me. I have killed any number of plants. But today, what we're going to talk about is how growing plants and giving plants life is about more than that. It's actually a way for you to practice some mindfulness and some self care. So, hi to everyone who's watching live, and hi to everyone in the future who watches the replay. I'm Giovanna May Reese, and I help high achieving, maybe a little introverted women practice real self care by practicing fierce boundaries and practical mindfulness strategies. And today, my guest is Cicely Brooks, who is at Garden Living with Sicily on Instagram. And she is going to introduce herself and tell us about her journey and her gardening.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Giovanna, for having me. And I must say, this is my first international garden chat. So I am super excited about that. So I'm Cicely. I live in southeastern Pennsylvania, closer to Philadelphia. And I've been a gardener, I say, since I was 7 years old, because I grew up with my grandparents and they had like a massive garden down south. Everything like trees, pecan trees, apple trees, pears, raspberry, blackberry, like you name it. They had everything.
Everything.
So who was a harvester? Me, me. So I am so passionate about gardening. It's all I care about. It's all I want to do. As a matter of fact, just before we went live, I'm making my plant list for the things that I have in my fall garden. So
Oh,
I'm a summer baby, but the fall is my favorite time of the year. So, hmm, what else? As I said, I grew up down south. I've been in this area for about 14 years. And this is really for real, where I cut my gardening teeth.
mm,
Okay. So when I got married, like I would get Better Homes and Garden magazine to the house.
mhm.
And so every month I would flip through and see all these beautiful pictures of flowers and garden beds. And so I went to my husband and I was like, hey, like, I want this. And he's a handy guy, so he can build stuff, right?
Mhm.
So I had like all of these, grandiose dreams of a garden in my head. And yeah, it didn't start out like that. So I just want to caution everyone, your garden will not start out magazine ready. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's fine because part of the journey is finding out what you like. If it's a certain food that you really enjoy, that should be the first thing that you want to grow. You don't have
Mhm.
to grow everything. I myself, I don't grow everything. Certain things like, okay, full transparency. I suck at growing carrots.
Carrots?
They are not my friend, okay? But nevertheless, every year I get carrot seeds and I plant them. So later on, like I'll talk more about how gardening can teach you to be resilient. It's going to build
Mhm.
your faith. It's going to build your patience, whether you like it or not. Because look, truth be told, we as gardeners, we're not in charge. Like, we're
Mhm.
not in charge.
Huh.
So,
So, when did you realize? Because I feel like that is such an important thought or an important thing to know about having a garden, and it's something that can apply in so many different areas of life. When did you figure out? that you were not in charge? Because I can just imagine, because I know
Yeah.
me, like I'm a problem solver. And so I'm one of those people
Mm.
who, if something does not work, oh, you're not going to beat me. I'm going to figure it out and it is going to work. And so I can see myself, if I actually wanted to garden, like, really making a mess and being out there all the time and trying to force it to do something that it's just not going to do. So can you talk about how you discovered that you're not in charge?
So when you plant something in a particular space and you have this idea, because when you're a new gardener, you don't do all the things right. You don't read the tags. You don't say, hey, well, this area gets full sun or this
Mm-hmm.
area is shade. And so what happens sometimes is that you'll plant shade um, plants in a super sunny area, and then they cook and they fry and they die. And then you say, oh, I have a black thumb. I don't know how to grow anything. Right. But it's just that one little tweak that you needed to make. Right. Um, I think when I first learned that I was not in charge is when, as a novice, yes, I had all of the background training as a little girl, but not really knowing fully about plants and how they perform like in your garden.
Mm-hmm.
I made a grave, grave, grave mistake, y'all. I planted, and I'm telling you, never ever do this. Okay. Like, never. Okay. I planted mint in the ground. So your
Okay.
face is telling me you know about the mint situation. Whew. So, as I said, when you plant it in one place and then it ends up all over somewhere else, like choking out other plants, that's when I knew I was not in charge. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And the only reason I'm smiling about that is because we have mint here
Mhm.
in our backyard that's in the little, containers that my husband is tending to, because again, I am not the gardening person. But, here in Brunei, for those of you who don't know, I'm in Southeast Asia. And dealing with the humidity and just the
Mm.
difference in the environment, we had to learn as well that we're not in charge and that we have to pay attention to tags and all of those things to keep stuff from dying. Yeah. So I can
Mhm.
definitely relate to that, and it is a good message that you're not in charge, because there are so many ways that we try to be in charge in life.
Mhm.
And sometimes that can lead us to things that are not really um, for us, right? Can you talk about how gardening has impacted your life personally?
So I'm a lot more mellow, right? I wasn't always like chill out, plant Sicily, like, everything is happy, everything is growing. I was not like that. I was a uptight control freak. Everything was serious. Why is it like this? It can't be that way. And now I'm just like, okay. As a matter of fact, the other day I did a post on, well, I shared it in my stories. So when I garden, I don't look like this, y'all. I'm not trying to be cute in the garden. I want to be comfortable. I need to have on my overalls with my hat, my gloves, and typically long sleeves. And people think I'm crazy, but the mosquitoes, ugh, the
Oh.
mosquitoes. And then I don't like bugs like on my skin. I don't want the dirt to get on me, all the things, right? So
Mhm.
anyway, I was all dressed up and ready to go. And I had, these to-do lists in my mind, like I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna clean that and cut. What did I end up doing? I
What?
literally got a chair and I sat down and I was like, oh, what an amazing breeze. And I was like, this is so great. So what did I do? I took my selfie and I was like, this is an impromptu self-care like
Yes.
moment. Okay. And you talk about mindfulness. So I literally started just taking in the pretty parts of my yard, the backyard, the pretty flowers, the vibrant colors, the birds chirping. And I was like, this is great because what if you ever really get into gardening, you have a tendency to just always want to work and do and move and because you have like these never ending ideas. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, no, I am going to chill out right now. And so
Mm-hmm.
none of the chores got done, and that's fine
Mm-hmm.
because there's always tomorrow. I think one of your shorts, you were talking about like if you don't do it today, there's tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. It's
And I
tomorrow.
took advantage of that, and it was so great. And in the morning I like to get up and just I used to be better at it, calling it walking the garden daily and just kind of seeing what happened overnight. And when you get that bloom, like if you I typically like to grow from seed, so that is definitely an exercise in patience, guys, because it may germinate and it may not. Okay. And you just have to be along for the ride. But
Mm-hmm.
when I plant something from seed, and then when you get that first pop, like where the seedling is coming up through the dirt, I
Mm-hmm.
literally turn into like a 7-year-old, like, this is amazing. Like, look at this, as if it's my first time. So
Because you feel
it's
joy.
absolutely, and it's continual. Like it doesn't matter how many years you've been gardening, that first time when you see the seed emerge, like it's amazing. And then when you get a bloom, like okra. So I planted my okra late, and I'm semi hopeful that maybe I'll get a stalk, but if not, oh well. But
Mm-hmm.
okra has the most beautiful flowers. They are
Mm-hmm.
so pretty. And if you've never seen one, please Google it, like okra flowers. And when you see those, you can't even imagine that a flower is that beautiful that will later on become something that you can eat. And I know a lot of people don't like okra, and that's fine. But even if you just want to grow it for the ornamental value, the beauty in that, and then harvest it and give it away to somebody
Mm-hmm.
that enjoys it. Because
Mm-hmm.
I like to experiment a lot, and give me a seed and I'm gonna plant it. I don't know what's gonna happen, but 2 years ago I first started doing pumpkins,
Mm-hmm.
much to my husband's chagrin, because he was like, oh, he's very like neat. And I'm the
Mm-hmm.
dreamer in the relationship. And I'm like, oh, let's try this and let's do that. And but he's just, prior military and like, no, it needs to be organized and this
Mm-hmm.
way. And so anyway, I planted those seeds, and the pumpkins, they're the cousin of the squash, basically. And they went wild. So they
Oh.
were over on the other side of the gate, and it got so wild that I just literally lifted up, and so was able to trail on the inside of our gate. So he
Uh.
wasn't happy about it, but I got some beautiful pumpkins. And when I
Well,
tell
you.
people, mhm.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say quickly that when I tell people, like, oh, yeah, like I'll grow anything, I grew artichokes. I didn't get any artichokes, but it was very beautiful. Like, I'm really big on the ornamental, view of it, if you will. But I'm like, yeah, give me a seed, I'll plant it. And I grow my own pumpkins in the backyard.
Mhm.
And people are like, really?
Mhm.
Yeah, like, why not?
Well, it sounds like a process of not just, mindfulness. There's opportunity that you're taking advantage of when you go out and you have a plan and you notice the beauty of your flowers, just taking a moment to be with that beauty and to slow down and to stop trying to rush to achieve something. And I think that is a really important thing for people who are looking to start a garden or really anything. You know, I've been talking recently online about this book I've been reading, 4,000 Weeks, A Mere Mortal's Guide to Time Management. And one of the things that's talked about in that book is rest and how
Mm,
we don't rest enough and how we're always trying to be productive and to achieve something, and how we don't just enjoy things just for the sake of enjoying them, like having hobbies. We don't have hobbies anymore. And even the hobbies that we
mhm.
do have, it's like, I'm going to start running so I can run this 10K. And so it kind of sucks the joy out of it
Right.
because you're always focused on the horizon and you're never focused on what's right in front of you. And with a garden, there is no end goal. It's not like you're ever going to get to the point where I've met this finish line. It's an ongoing, ever changing thing. And so, like you were saying, it's such a good exercise in mindfulness and patience and resilience. And I really think more of us need to work on that. One of the things that I've posted recently on my YouTube channel, I've been posting meditations to help people kind of slow down,
Mm,
including a walking meditation. And I've got a download. It's called Slow Down, Sis. It's a mindfulness mastery toolkit that people can download to help with mindfulness, to help with just accepting and connecting with the beauty around you. And I feel like you're a kindred spirit with that. And I invite all of you to check
mhm.
out Cicely's website, where she talks about gardening and helping people start their garden. So can you also give me an example of, like, how you would advise someone who is looking to start gardening as a form of self-care, but maybe they feel overwhelmed by the process? Because when I think about gardening, I think about, and let me have full disclosure as well, I have a whole bunch of plants. Like, I've got this, the cactus doesn't count because I know cactus, it's very easy. It's hard to kill a cactus, although it has been done, not by me, but I've seen it done. I've got a bunch of plants, but I don't take care of any of them. We have a housekeeper, and she's got a green thumb, and she keeps the plants
Mm.
beautiful. So for someone who wants to get their hands in there and to start working with plants for their beauty and for self-care, how would you advise them to get started with that?
Well, I would say baby steps.
Mhm.
Ease into it. You look, there's no competition in gardening. And like I know you've talked about like online, like you see what other people are doing, and depending upon what your personality is, you may feel like, okay, I'm gonna do that and this and that. And no, 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 don't do it. Hi, Teresa. Don't do it. Just ease into it. Get one plant, just one simple plant. And look, plants are very expensive right now.
Mm.
So I would advise, like around this time of the year, go to a local big box store and go to the clearance section, right? And so if you have this idea that you have a black thumb, or you kill everything, you can't grow anything, get yourself a clearance plant, honey. Okay? And then you're gonna nurse it and nurture it and and nurse it back to health, right? And so I think about like gardening is so applicable to every part of your life, like relationships. I'm
Mm.
in relationships with my plants, okay? I'm not always the best. I call myself, I'm a self described plant empath, okay? But plants go elsewhere. They, go on to wherever they originated from and they
Hmm.
leave me. And that's okay because I know I
Mm.
have others to take care of, and that's fine. And the other part that I've learned with gardening is constant change. You're not in control of anything. You have to be patient, and the change is constant. I don't like winter, but winter is coming.
Was that a Game of Thrones shout out?
Well, I never watched Game of Thrones, but I think it is a reference to Game of And so there's nothing I can do about it,
Mm,
barring like moving to another country that's the opposite hemisphere, southern hemisphere. But that's fine because there are still things that I can do as, I'm awaiting the next season. I can plan, I can, envision what I want the garden to be like.
mhm.
But going back to your original question, just ease into it, get one little plant. Hold on. I have a prop for y'all.
Uh-oh.
So this is a simple little pothos, okay? And this was only what,
Four.
$4 at Walmart. I don't typically go to Walmart, but one day I happened to find myself in Walmart and I said, oh, let me get this plant. Now, did I need another plant? No, I did not, but we don't want to talk about that. But this pothos, it trails, right? And then with these little nodes, you can actually take them, you can cut this and you can place it in water. So then you can propagate it and then they'll have some new friends, right?
Hmm.
So it's very simple. I would suggest this type of plant. And look, I made a mistake and I left it outside. So that has like some sun scald on it. But
Mhm.
guess what? That's okay. Because what are we going to do? We're just going to take it off and toss
Mhm.
it aside. And we're going to go
Mhm.
on with our lives. And we can leave this up, make sure it's watered, right? So, another thing, you have to give yourself grace because you're not going to be the
Mm.
best plant mom all the time. You have responsibilities. You may, have a partner, a spouse, children, perhaps, fur animals, like fur babies, all the things, other hobbies. Okay.
Mhm.
Give yourself grace. It's okay if you don't water the garden all the time. Like,
Mhm.
I've been on the struggle bus with the water. And yesterday was so crazy. It was like 97 degrees here, just out of
Mm.
nowhere. And then
Mhm.
today, I think it's around maybe 70 something. So the
Yeah.
temperature fluctuates and you're not in control, as I said
Yeah.
earlier. So you just have to grow with the flow. I actually have a coffee mug. I saw this coffee mug that says grow with the flow, and it's fine.
Mm. I love that. So Teresa has a question. Teresa wants to know, how do you propagate this type of plant? I have two, and one is growing very long.
So that is a great question. As I said, if you take scissors and just snip it at that node that sticks out, you can place that in water. Keep the water change every maybe like 3 days or so, or especially if it gets cloudy, and just give it time to develop roots. And either you can leave it in there and just change the water over time, and you can, I mean, it's fun to watch like the root system grow because you're like, oh my God, I just, clipped this and stuck it in the water, and
Happening.
then suddenly I have these roots. But to answer your question, Teresa, you can take it, and after the roots develop, you can place it in the dirt. But if it's growing like really kind of what's the word? Like if it's getting really thin, because these plants they're supposed to be like full and lush, right?
Mm.
So if it doesn't look healthy, don't be afraid to just cut it and place it in water and just wait and see what happens.
I love that. Okay. So one of the things that you said when you were talking, you talked about how planting, gardening is an exercise in letting go. And it made me think about something that I wrote the other day. I was doing something and I was thinking about my son who recently turned 15 and thinking about
Mm,
how in a few years he's going to be leaving the nest and
mm,
how I used to be one of those parents who was like, okay, when this boy is gone, okay, it's time for freedom. But when I was thinking about it, I started to get a little bit emotional because I was like,
mm,
my baby is leaving. And I didn't think that I would feel this way. I've looked at other parents who, when their kids get to this age and they're crying, and I'm like, y'all have the wrong perspective on this. This is like an opportunity. But I was feeling the first tinges of that. And so when you were talking about gardening, because when you have kids, you're tending to them, you've been helping them grow, and then eventually you have to let them go. And you don't have any control over that. You've done the best that you can, you've nurtured them and tended to them, but eventually it's time to let them go. And so I love how gardening is connected to so many things, like I mean, the cycle of life or the circle of life. Shout out to the Lion King.
mhm.
But it's the circle of life, and we're watching it in the garden, and it's so easy to connect to our day to day life.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
don't know if your son, if he's into plants or anything, but maybe you all could get like the same plant and you take care of your plant and he can take care of his and then you can talk about it. And
Yes.
I'll tell you, like, gardening really helped my marriage
Mm.
immensely. Because when I
Okay.
started out, I was like, I want this garden to look like the magazine. And one of the first like annoying fights that we had, my husband built these, boxes, just very simplistic, And I mean, I was like kind of happy about it, but I was just like,
It didn't look like
thanks.
a magazine.
Yeah, okay. And I was very, remember how I said I used to be like really like wound up, serious, it's gotta
Mhm,
be this
mhm,
way.
mhm.
And he that one day in the yard, he was like, "This is not Better Homes and Garden." And then he walked off, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So but it was something like he never wanted to start a garden, like ever.
Mm.
Okay. So he eventually acquiesced and got on board. And so now, like the boxes that you see on the website, that was his vision.
Oh,
He built those. He as a matter of fact, he built boxes all around our entire yard. So now Mr. City Slicker, because he's from New York, he's from Brooklyn. He is into growing garlic. So
okay.
this has become something that we do collectively. Like, and
Mm.
so he's all into permaculture. And once he retires, he's talking about doing a micro farm and growing garlic. And so
Look
it's taken on a life of its own.
at
But you hear these stories about couples when they come together, and like we've been married, it's going to be 15 years this year. So you hear about people, couples, they get married and then they grow apart, and because they don't have
Mhm.
anything in common. And he still has his separate interests. Like, I'm not interested in comic books, nor will I ever be, and that's fine.
Give it a chance.
I be trying, Javonna. It's so hard. Like, just
There's a couple of
not.
superheroes who like plant stuff as their power. Check it out.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna have to look that up. I'll look that up. But seriously, like it's something that we do together. Like he helps me,
Mhm,
like when I have customers and certain heavy lifting and a bunch of shoveling and all the things.
mhm,
He does that for me, and I'm grateful for it. And so that's his gifting as far as like building and doing the carpentry and everything. And so he can take pride in that. And then so he'll build everything, fill up the boxes, and then I come along and I plant. And so
mhm.
that's something that we can look back on and say, oh, like, yeah, we did that like together. So
Yeah, I really love that. And enough said. Love this topic. Thank you for being here.
yay.
Um, so I love this topic, and I specifically love, that as something that can help bolster a relationship. It's something that can
Mhm.
bolster a marriage, a friendship, or yes, Teresa said beautiful couple bonding. It's something that can help, maybe bond me with my son when he leaves. And I was laughing when you said that because the first thing I pictured was both of us having dead plants.
You gotta be positive.
That'll be the bond that we both killed the plants. But yes, to work through it together. But
Ah,
yeah, doing that. And I also love how, you don't have to do it all together. You can do this one thing and you can grow together. You're growing this garden and you're continuing to grow your relationship. So that's really, really a beautiful thing. Now, I wanted to get to a question. Teresa had another question that I didn't get to. She said that I want to learn how to be a gardener, and I have a whole hard backyard that would love some flowers, veggies, and herbs. So, can you give Teresa some tips on what the next step is or what the first baby step is that she could do?
so the very first step is you have to Google your USDA growing zone. So just go to Google, put in your zip code, and just say, what is my growing zone? And then put in your zip code. And so it will pop up like the USDA growing zone. For example, I'm in zone 7A, and I think I have like about 180 some odd days of growing season, which I want it to be more. I really want it to be more, but I'm over here right now. So I'm just dealing with what I've been given. And it's fine because, like, you can do outdoor gardening, you can do indoor gardening. Now, I do have a sunroom, but I don't like having a lot of plants to water. Like, that's not my jam. And
Hmm.
last year, like over the winter, I was so tired of the plants. Yes, believe it or not, I was over these plants. And I said, you know what? All y'all, except for the super large ones, all y'all going outside. Okay. You're going in the ground.
Like keeping your kids outside to play.
Yes. And like where you live now, Giovanna, like it's so beautiful. And you have all these lush tropical plants, like all about, okay, I'm a little jelly about it, but it's fine. Uh, but literally, like I had a fiddle leaf fig. This was this year. I had a fiddle leaf fig. It was on the struggle bus.
Hmm.
She was almost about to go meet her maker.
Oh
I
boy.
said, no, girl, come on. We're going to go outside. And I planted it in the ground by faith and I kept it watered. And the leaves have come back. Like it was literally naked. And the fiddle leaf figs are they're a more finicky type plant. Like they're a little high maintenance.
Okay.
But I was encouraged because I actually saw one in it was a public garden in Florida. I think it's called Sunken Gardens. And they had all these beautiful palms and tropical plants and and the fiddle leaf fig, and I was like, oh my gosh. So that was my initial time, the very first time that I had ever seen one, in its natural habitat. So I said, okay, well, she can go outside. Now, what I'm going to be tasked with before it starts to get cold
Mm.
is to dig her up, okay, and get her in a container and bring her inside the sunroom and help her get through the winter. So it's a process, but it's fun. And another thing, okay, so do your growing, Google your growing zone, but you have to figure out which, which area in your garden has ample sunlight, because the plants will not grow if they don't have enough sun. Okay,
Hmm.
now some plants can have too much sun, like the shadier ones, like the hostas that are pretty common to most backyards or front yards. So you definitely want to figure out what your light requirement is. If you have a bunch of giant oak trees that's over an area, a bunch of maple trees that's over this area where you think that you're going to grow tomatoes or okra or zinnias, it's not going to happen. And that has nothing to do with you having a black thumb, right? It's
Hmm.
just it has to, you have to cater to the plant specific needs, right? The same way
Hmm.
you do and when you're in a relationship with people, right? You have to learn what they
Hmm.
like, what they don't like, and you want to do the things that they do like, and then
Right.
not do the things that will upset them.
Right. So here's a question that might be helpful for people. Um, and it would be helpful for me as well. So when you're going through different stages, I always talk about how we've got seasons in our life. We've got seasons where we're really
Mhm.
busy, we're working towards something, or we've got seasons where things are a little bit more slow, slow pace. So for somebody who wants to start gardening and they want to make it a habit, because habits are those things. Good habits are going to help us with burnout, they're going to help us with stress, and it needs to be something that's sustainable. So like for me, I love plants, but but Cicely, I don't. When you were talking about digging it up and preparing it for winter, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about all of that. So for somebody who wants to get into gardening in the lowest, slowest, least energized way possible, what way could they do that? I.e., what way could I do that?
Okay, so like um there are two plant categories primarily: perennials and annuals. So the annuals denote that you're going to have to plant these every single year. Okay. I don't advise a first time gardener starting out with annuals. Okay. Because we're trying to build your confidence. So if you have a whole bunch of annuals, you're busy, or maybe you don't feel like it, or you don't want to be outside, well, like whatever your situation is, you don't want to have a whole bunch of annuals that you're trying to maintain because they're gonna die and they're not gonna be here. So I would say start off with perennials. And as a matter of fact, yes, they do. Annuals, they're so pretty and they just draw you in and they suck you in. And you're like, oh, I'm going to get this tray and I'm going to plant these and I'm going to do this and that. Mm,
High
mm,
maintenance.
very much, very much so. So you want to start out with perennials. And one of my favorite, most favoriteest I don't know if that's a word.
Let me make a note.
Lavender. You have to plant
Oh,
lavender.
okay.
So lavender is everything. You can clip it. Um, when so it's a Spanish type of lavender. It kind of has like a funny little like a flower. It doesn't grow like the typical lavender that you see, but the English lavender, that's the one that's my favorite. You can cut it, you can dry it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I even had a job interview and I was like, oh Lord, I gotta drive. So what did I do? I ran out to the yard, I snipped off some of the lavender and I took it with me as I was driving and I was stroking it and
Aw.
just calm down, it's okay. And I was fine. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something that you can also, just do every day. It's part of your self-care routine or your ritual. And even like on windy days, if you pass by the lavender, you can smell it, right?
Mm.
It's I have some planted just outside the front door. I have some in the backyard, and I'm always adding to it. And it's a perennial. So it's low maintenance. You don't have to worry about, oh my God, I didn't water it and it's going to die on me. And no, it's a very resilient plant and it's pretty, it's happy, it smells great.
Mhm.
And so, like, even so, one of my dreams is to go to Provence in the
Mm.
lavender fields.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those pictures. It's beautiful.
It's everything. So, that's definitely on my list of things to do. Um, so don't start
Yeah,
out with a bunch of annuals. Go get you some perennials. And even like with some of my elderly clients, we need to plant perennials for them, right?
mm.
They don't have
Mhm.
time to be waiting on seeds to grow and to pop up. They need instant gratification, right? And then they also need something that is, lower maintenance and
Yeah.
it doesn't require a bunch of watering and tending to.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And thank you for suggesting that. I think I might look into lavender and if it would do well, in this environment, and I might plant some of that. And by me, I mean my husband or my housekeeper. I can enjoy it as I'm sitting in the backyard around. Girl, I have a swinging chair out there that my husband got me, and I will just swing and look at these beautiful plants as if I've really done something, but I'm just
I saw that.
enjoying.
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like, that is so amazing.
I'm going to contribute to it one day. One day I'm going to contribute. Um, so, can you talk about how people can find you and how they can learn more about your work or anything else that you want to highlight about what you do?
So, full disclosure, guys, I'm on the struggle bus with the social media stuff, right? I and another thing that I've been working through. So, I believe that I'm an introvert, but people don't typically agree with me with that. But I'm so content with being in my backyard bubble, being one with my garden, talking to my plant friends. You know, I'm not really a person that's like, hey, look at this, look what I did. This is where I was at. Like, you know, but I am a very social person. So, where can you find me? I'm on Instagram at Garden Living with Cicely. And also my website is cicilymbrooks.com. And so I can have more time with my gardening. I'm gonna have to find a social media person because your
Hey,
girl ain't it. It's just
delegate,
not my ministry.
delegate.
So definitely going to work on that in the coming year. And, I have some things that are, in the works, I should say. So,
Well, I think that your gardening is like a good metaphor for that journey. You know, you're going to have to
absolutely.
research and figure out what works for you, and you're going to, you know, try some things that don't work, because that's really been my journey as well. I'm an introvert,
Mm.
and it took me forever to get on social media because
I
I'm
know.
not a look at me. I'm not, you know,
Right.
I like people, but I also love being in my little bubble as well. And
Yes.
so you just try it out and find out what works for you, just like, you know, in the gardening, you'll find out your jam.
Oh, and another thing, as a like if you're a budding gardener and you need some inspiration outside of me, of course, go to a public garden. There are public gardens worldwide.
Mhm.
So go and visit. I really like to go and visit a public garden so I can see like the more mature plants. Like when you buy them at a big box store, they're sort of like in, I guess maybe like that toddler stage, and then
Mhm.
you get them home, and depending upon, if it's an annual or a perennial, but it's in a growing state. But when you go to a public garden, let me tell you this funny story. So one time I got this lavender hyssop seeds, planted them. They performed beautifully, had these beautiful purple flower plumes that the pollinators absolutely loved. Okay. Now the only issue with them is when they're on the end of the life cycle and then they dry out because they're about to go dormant,
Mhm.
and then they self seed. So it can end up all over your yard if you don't cut it back
Uh,
soon enough, right?
okay.
So one of my favorite public gardens, which I'm for certain is one of the most beautiful gardens in the world, is Longwood Gardens in Pennsylvania. And so my husband and I, we were out, perusing and looking around, and that plant, it was planted, and it was really, really tall and beautiful, and the bees were just swarming. So
Mhm.
my wonderful husband had the audacity to tell me,
Oh
"Oh,
boy.
I think we should get some of these and plant them in the yard." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "That is the plant that you was fussing at me about, the being, it's all over the yard because it's self-seeded." And I was just like, "Okay, like whatever." And he's like, "Well, I think we should plant more around the yard." I was like, "Okay, I'll take it under advisement, under advisement."
Thank you
But
for your
yes,
Okay. All right. Well, Cicely, it's been great talking to you. And I want to encourage everybody to check out her website. If you are somebody who is looking to start a garden in some capacity, to start growing something, and it seems overwhelming, or it seems like something that you can't do, you can do it. And in this talk, Cicely has
absolutely.
given us several ways that we can do that. And I also encourage you to do it because it's something that you can make part of your mindfulness practice. And the way that everyone is going today, moving and shaking and doing all of these things, we've got to find a way to slow down, to connect with ourselves, to connect with nature. And I mentioned it at the top, and I'll mention it again. Please check out my mindfulness mastery toolkit, Slow Down Sis. It's got some practical exercises you can do, along with some guided meditations that you can do on a quick morning walk or while you're working on your garden. So
Mhm.
check that out for sure. And if you liked this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. whether it's now live. Thank you to you guys who are here live, or in the future, because it helps my channel grow. And then again, keep up with Cicely, because she's going to get her stuff going as well. She's going to tend to her social media garden. So make sure you check out her stuff as well. So thanks again, Cicely, for being here. It was great talking to you.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.